Continuing with the subject of layers, the next layer type is the grade layer. It can be applied to either the editor or composite shot timeline. It's the simplest of layer types, and its sole purpose is to affect all clips or layers beneath it on the editor or composite shot timeline. Probably its main use is to color grade all or part of a scene. By default, a grade layer has no effect, but if an effect is applied to it, that effect will affect all the layers below it. If that sounds a bit convoluted, hopefully it will become clearer as the tutorial progresses. You may have a project that consists of dozens of video clips. Let's presume that the camera that was used to capture those clips had its white balance set incorrectly. This would mean that all the resultant clips would be either blue shifted or yellow shifted. To correct this in post, you would use a color correction method to bring the video back to a more normal color. For one clip, you would simply apply the method to that clip. To apply the same correction method to the project would be a daunting task. Some NLEs allow color correction to be applied to the whole timeline or to the project, but as far as I know, this isn't possible in Hitfilm. This is where a grade layer comes in handy. You would apply it to the editor or composite shot timeline, then extend it so that it covers the project. It's then just a case of applying the correction method to the grade layer. The correction then applies to every clip on the timeline. Grade layers can also have masks applied to them, allowing you to apply a specific effect to the mask. It's debatable whether this is more productive than simply applying a mask to the media, then applying the effect to that. I've loaded a project containing 3 clips that are blue shifted and 3 clips that are yellow shifted. For simplicity, I've loaded these onto the editor timeline. I'll now add a grade layer. In this case, strictly speaking, it's not a layer, it's a clip, but it functions the same as a layer. It can be added to the timeline by clicking New Clip and selecting Grade, or by pressing the keystroke sequence Ctrl plus Alt plus G. It will be placed above the clips and will have the duration specified in the project settings. In this case, it's 5 seconds long, so I'll extend it to the end of the clips. As you can see, it has no effect on the video clips. I want to color grade all the clips in one go, so I'll apply an appropriate color grading effect to the grade clip. There's a neat color correction effect that attempts to restore the original color without having to play about with any settings. It's called auto color, so I'll apply that. Without having to do anything else, the original colour of the clip has been restored. If it still isn't quite right, in this case the yellow shifted clips still have a hint of yellow. You can adjust the auto color parameters to tweak it. If you're still not satisfied, you can use one of the many color correction effects until you are satisfied. Note that some of these are not supported in the free version of Hitfilm. Using a grade layer to affect multiple layers which are stacked on top of each other is something that you wouldn't normally need to do. I'll deal with that rare scenario a little later. I'll first describe how layers should be positioned on the timeline to allow a grade layer to affect all the layers. I've imported the same 6 clips as before. I'll now create a composite shot and load them onto the timeline. I now need to ensure that each clip plays one after another. In a composite shot, you can't connect each clip like you can on the editor timeline. You have to pull each clip along its own timeline so that it coincides with the end of the previous clip. Now the clips play consecutively. I can now create a grade layer as normal in a composite shot by clicking New Layer, then Grade. Unlike applying a grade clip to the editor timeline, the grade layer's duration is the same as the duration of the composite shot. Now it's just a case of applying the auto color effect to the grade layer as described previously. Finally, I want to deal with a scenario which most of us will never encounter. Despite that assumption, it's worth dealing with even if it's only for the sake of interest. As I mentioned earlier, clips in a composite shot normally play consecutively. On very rare occasions, you may require that clips play concurrently, that is, at the same time. If we discard the subject of blending, which is a complex subject, with normal clips, as I mentioned before, the hierarchical nature of the timeline would prevent lower clips showing through upper clips. This is not necessarily true if the upper clip has an alpha channel, which is set to be transparent. In this case, the transparent parts of the upper clip allow those parts of the lower clip to show through. A typical case would be the use of a text layer, which has a transparent alpha channel and allows the text to be superimposed onto the layer immediately below. I've loaded a project that contains a clip of a green screen elephant and a clip of an African landscape. Both of these have a slight bluish tint. I first need to make the green of the elephant clip transparent. I can use a normal keying method to do this. The easiest one to use is the colour difference key. With the green made transparent, the landscape now shows through. Now to add the grey layer. As previously, I'll add the auto colour effect to the grey layer. Although the grey layer is the simplest of the layer types, used wisely, it can save a great deal of work when colour grading a large project. In the next tutorial, I'll delve into the three-dimensional environment to describe the camera layer. Use of this layer is essential for navigating around the environment. Join me if you can for this, and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Until then, bye for now.